Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's edition of the Let's Talk Thursdays podcast. My name is BrendenPlayz, and it's good to have you again for another edition of the show. As this week, it's a bit of an injury week, isn't it? We've had a few injuries to get into. Strowman's injured, Emma's injured. We're going to bring back the Fast Five, of course, and we're going to cover everything to do with Raw and SmackDown that was over in the UK this week. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to send in a question for next week's episode, make sure you head over to the comment section down below or over the forums, BrendenPlayz.com/forums, or over on the Facebook page. I forgot to do the Facebook page this week, so I apologise to all those guys. But of course, you can leave one there for next week's show, or a voicemail on the website, BrendenPlayz.com as well. And in the background, I'm going to go, I've always played a theme song or something like that, but I'm going to try something like every week. I'm going to have a theme song of the week. I'm going to pick some of my favorite theme songs, and week by week I'll play one at the start and at the end of the show. And this week we're going to go with Badass Undertaker, the theme when he was riding the bikes back in the day. You're going to pay, one of my favorite theme songs of all time. So that's my theme song this week. So every week we might display, one of my favorite theme songs. Normally I play a theme song that kind of matches in with what we're going to talk about in the show, but you know what? Let's just do a random one. Let's just play some of my favorites. So keep your ears open for that. I was going to say keep an eye out for that, but it's actually keep your ears open for that one. So we'll be doing that in the future as well, just to something a little extra on the side. But this week on the show, well, we've got the King of the Ring pay-per-view coming up this weekend on BrendenPlayz. I am a little bit behind the schedule on that, to be honest. I want to do a Talking Universe mode sometime before the King of the Ring pay-per-view, obviously. So I want to preview the King of the Ring pay-per-view. Maybe I'll try to get that out tomorrow. I also have to do the next episode of Universe mode. We uploaded a top 10 things I want in WWE 2K18 yesterday, so if you missed that one, go and check that out. Basically just running through some of the things that I really want to see back in, or new things that I want to see in WWE 2K18. And I might do a few more top 10 things from 2K18 and maybe some other things, some other genres as well, just to kind of spice the channel out. It's something I'm kind of thinking about doing, but we'll probably try and get this pay-per-view out of the way first. That's my top priority at the moment. And what has kind of been my week off, it's been a bit of a week off without having to do any university work, which has been great. So I've been focusing on just kind of, getting the videos done, but I have been a little slack at the same time. Just kind of relaxing a little bit at the same time as well. Just kind of taking a bit of a week to just kind of de-stress a little bit and get ready for the tough weeks to come, which of course is exam week. So that's coming up as well. So that's something that we can expect pretty soon. But King of the Ring this Sunday. It'll be at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. UK time. Of course, the quarterfinal matches for Universe Mode up to the semifinals and finals. So we will announce who will be the King of the Ring winner on that pay-per-view. There will be 7 matches. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm so excited for this one because I think the King of the Ring, the concept, is so great, but has been so mistreated over the years. I really wanted to do it justice, and I have really enjoyed the process of the King of the Ring and what I've been able to do with the King of the Ring. So I'm so excited to kind of showcase that to you guys and bring that in and do it, I would say, properly, maybe. I mean, I don't know. It's a bit of a different format as well. We've gone from a bit of a... What I kind of thought of it was the NBA system, like the East versus West kind of thing. The Western Conference teams versus each other, the Eastern Conference teams versus each other, and at the end, the best from the East takes on the best on the West. That's kind of what we've done, except it's the Raw guys versus each other and the SmackDown guys versus each other, and then the Raw versus SmackDown element at the end. Now, honestly, it would have been great to have done, the Raw versus SmackDown match, and the winner it culminates at bragging rights. I mean, that would have been great as another way to kind of incorporate, the SmackDown vs. Raw thing. But, you want to see the winner of the King of the Ring pay-per-view announced at the King of the Ring. If I didn't do a King of the Ring pay-per-view and I just had done all the matches on Raw and SmackDown leading into bragging rights, sure, fair enough. But that's not what we've gone with. So anyways, that would have been good, but I think I'm pretty happy with the way we're going to be doing it anyway. So King of the Ring will find out who is the winner right then and there. So that'll be Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. UK time. Same time as always, we do our pay-per-view live streams. And, recent times as well, we've been doing just random Universe Mode episodes. We've streamed, I think, maybe 3 or 4 episodes of Universe Mode leading into the King of the Ring as well. So that's been pretty fun to be able to stream those episodes for you guys as well. So that was really good. We had a great turnout as well. We streamed some Mario Kart over the weekend as well, which is always great. I've been really enjoying Mario Kart, getting into it a lot more. I haven't played it for a few days now, but I'll definitely get back on and perhaps even stream it over the weekend at some point. So when I get some time, definitely want to do that. So that should be a lot of fun as well. And other things going on for me, not really a lot else. Last week I refereed my first game. I told you guys I was going to take this refereeing course for rugby league, and I did. I passed. It was all successful, and I went ahead and actually refereed my first game on the weekend. So what I had to do is I turned up, and originally I thought I was going to be refereeing an under-6 match, so children of 6 years of age playing rugby league, which is really interesting. It's pretty funny, to be honest. They have no idea what they're doing. They don't even run straight. So they pass the ball, they drop the ball all the time, they don't know what they're doing. And, in rugby league, you're meant to tackle each other, but they more so just hug each other. It's like little kids just hugging each other. But there's always one kid. There's always one kid who actually knows what he's doing, who's actually pretty good, takes it really seriously, and he's just beating everyone. And I saw that plenty of times as well. So I was going to have to do an under-6s match. It turns out I had to do an under-7s, which is slightly a little bit different rules, a little bit harder, so I had to kind of step up to the plate with no experience at all. But I think I did pretty well, and I'm going to be doing another game on Saturday again, maybe a couple games. So it was really fun to do something different and kind of referee. I want to get into doing some coaching as well. I'm thinking about maybe in a couple of years' time, or maybe next year, looking at coaching some, like a little kids team as well. I think that would be pretty fun, and maybe, start coaching and then maybe coach my way to, like under 12s or maybe even teenagers, something like that. I don't know. I like being in charge. I like being in charge of something. Like, I really like managing. That's something I wanted to do as a career, like be a manager of a business or own my own business or do something where I'm the leader, I'm in charge. I like doing that. So, I know it's pretty different, but coaching I think would be pretty fun, just kind of having a team and trying to get this team to get better and learn, and, seeing them perform would be really fun. I think it would be pretty rewarding. So it's something I'm thinking about doing. I don't know if it would be for rugby league. Maybe I'll coach football. Maybe I'll coach cricket. I don't know. It's something I kind of want to do at some point. Maybe I'll probably do it when I have my own kid, and I can be his coach. But maybe not. You never know. Maybe I'll do it before that. Why not? I've got nothing else to do. So it's something I'm thinking about. So I tried the refereeing thing. It's pretty fun. I'll probably keep doing it. You don't really make much money off refereeing, but you go there, they give you a free lunch, you referee a little bit, it's pretty fun, and you go home. So it's a bit of a morning out, and I really enjoyed it. So just thought I'd let you guys know how that all went, and it went pretty well. So we'll be back doing it on Saturday, and maybe I'll give you another report to see how round 2 went. Probably, hopefully better. Hopefully I do better, but you never know, it could be a disaster. But anyways, that's really all there is to chat about. We'll get into the wrestling discussion this week. We'll start off with a couple bit of news tidbits that I thought were pretty important. The first one is injury news. Now, Braun Strowman, we saw him on Raw involved in an angle with Roman Reigns, and we'll talk more about that later on. But the rumor is that he's carrying a bit of an elbow injury, I believe, or some kind of injury towards the arm. I'm pretty sure it's the elbow or a shoulder, something along those lines. But originally, the rumor was that he was penciled in to be taking on Brock Lesnar at the upcoming Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view. That terrible pay-per-view that we are trying to delete from my mind. But, so he was apparently penciled in to taking on Lesnar in that championship match. Unlikely that's going to take place now because of this injury. Looks as though he'll be out for a month, maybe 2 months, something like that. needs a bit of a minor surgery. So that's a bit of a big blow because Braun Strowman's been on a roll, really enjoying what he's been doing. He just got a big win over Roman Reigns. They kind of wrote him off TV a little bit, but I found it strange that they would risk perhaps a further injury by having Strowman and Reigns interact on Raw. It can't be that bad if they are willing to have, Braun Strowman in an actual match, albeit not much of a match, but then having Roman Reigns come out and attack the injury as well. So that was a little bit strange. So I'm kind of like, well, is this legitimate? Is it not that bad? Just a bit of a small little tweak, small little tear. They need to kind of just do something quickly to do it. It's not that serious. But normally WWE really takes no risks on injuries, because, injuries are pretty big liabilities. And if someone is injured and they know he's injured and then he goes out there and, does something more serious, they're liable for that. So I'm surprised that they did take that risk if it is legitimately an injury, which I'm hearing that it is. You never know. But, it's, at the end of the day, it's a big blow. And I think Braun Strowman has been a really vocal point of the show. Like, Raw's really lacking. Raw is really lacking. We'll talk more about it later on the show when we get to Raw. But Raw's really lacking, and losing Braun Strowman is just going to really, really hurt the show even more. The other injury news was Emma, overseas in the UK, suffered an injury herself, and she's been sent home from the UK tour, or the European tour, whatever it is. That's also a really big blow for Emma because she just came back from injury and was out for, nearly a year or at least 8 months or something like that. She's just come back and she's just starting to perhaps, work a bit of a program with Dana Brooke maybe. Just getting herself back on TV and kind of restarting, hitting the reset button, restarting over again. Now, well, she's gone. She's gone. We don't know how long yet. I haven't heard anything. I'm sure we'll find out probably in a day or two. So that's really, really tough, for Emma. Is it a big blow for Raw in terms of the women's division? No, not really. I mean, Emma wasn't really kind of a vocal point of the Raw women's division. And being a heel, Alexa Bliss being the champ, she probably wasn't going to be involved in the title pitch or anything like that anytime soon. Clear that it's going to be Bayley and then Sasha probably, and maybe even Nia Jax. Who knows? So it's clear that they're going to go that way, in that direction. So Emma probably wasn't going to be involved in the championship picture, but still, they could have done something there with Emma and Dana Brooke. That was kind of like the plan. They were just starting a bit of a storyline there. And now Emma's gone again. So I was having a discussion on the BrendenPlayz forums, with another member. He was saying basically, Emma's got to go. She's injury prone. She's not over. She's got to get released. So I wouldn't do that. I don't know if I would go that far. Honestly, I still think Emma's got a lot of value. When she came here to Australia a couple of years ago, the crowd went nuts for her. I think she's pretty good in the ring. She's not a bad talker. The accent is an issue, obviously. I'm Australian, and the accent we have is awful. I hate hearing it on TV. It's embarrassing. It's cringy. It's not sexy. It's not cool. It's just cringy to hear our accent. When we bloody talk like this, go, I'm going to have a match with you. Let's go one-on-one in the ring, you and me. It sounds shit. It sounds shit. So some people may like the accent, but I'm so accustomed to hearing the American accent when I watch TV that I would prefer it way more than the Australian accent, because the Australian accent just sounds so different in comparison, and it's just so cringy. So whenever she talks, I kind of cringe a little bit because it's not her fault. It's just how we sound. But so it's a tough blow for her. And the last little piece of news before we get into the Fast Five, Batista. Now, on my second channel on Wrestling Shoots, I uploaded a video, on Batista talking on Talk is Jericho in the podcast this week, talking about how he wants to come back to WWE. But WWE doesn't want him. For whatever reason, WWE does not want Batista, a fucking Hollywood movie star. This isn't a guy who, is an extra on a straight to DVD movie. This is a guy who's in the Guardians of the Galaxy. He was just in James Bond as well. He's got all these other movie roles going on. This is a guy who's now a legitimate Hollywood star. He's legit. Look, The Rock is the man. And Batista's not as big as The Rock, and probably, most likely never will be. Batista, just doesn't have the star power like The Rock. Doesn't have the charisma like The Rock. But Batista is doing pretty damn good for himself for a wrestler. He is in some great movies and getting bigger and better roles as the months go on. And this guy wants to come back. The Rock, he comes back for a bit of fun because he feels like it, probably because WWE are so desperate to have him on. WWE is so desperate they need someone like The Rock to come on. But whereas Batista, he reaches out to WWE. He reaches out to Vince and Triple H and saying, hey, I want to come back. Let me back. I want to have another match. I want to have a bit of a retirement angle. I want to finish off in the right way. But WWE doesn't want him. WWE does not want Batista to come back. I have no idea. Batista is one of my favorites of all time. He was my favorite wrestler when I got into wrestling. A big reason was because of Batista. He was the world champion over in SmackDown at the time. I just gravitated towards him. He was this massive, big dude who was just kicking ass. I found him to be amazing. He was so great. And, he had a really good career in WWE. He was probably not the guy. Cena was the guy. But Batista at one point was more popular than John Cena. 2005. I'm currently watching WWE 2005. And Batista, I tell you what, he's getting bigger reactions than Cena was when they're both champ at the same time. Batista was the man. Batista was the number one guy for a while there. The next big thing coming through. Obviously, Cena turned out to be the guy, but Batista was really up there. So, a lot of people think badly of Batista, and I really shitted on this years ago on the podcast. When he originally came back a couple of years ago for the Royal Rumble thing and then the WrestleMania thing, look, the fans ruined it. The fans shitted all over it. But to be honest, WWE did no favors. They should have had him come back in a surprise Rumble return. It got leaked, so that didn't help. But I would have still went with the return anyway as a surprise. Batista coming in. Didn't have to win the Royal Rumble. They wanted Batista to win the Rumble. They thought that would be big. Him coming, winning the Royal Rumble, going on to Mania and doing all that would have been huge. And we'd probably have him win the championship, hold it for a few months, drop the belt, and away he goes. As it turned out, that didn't happen. So they didn't get their wish, so they kind of just they just did everything wrong. It was just such a poorly booked return. The only thing they did right was having Evolution come back together to take on the Shield, because those matches were freaking awesome. I loved that. And look, the Batista, Randy, and Daniel Bryan match was actually good. So Batista got a lot of flack. People saying, oh, he's gassed, he can't do it anymore, he sucks, he's terrible, he's botching. Botchtista, all that crap. Everyone, he was getting booed like Roman Reigns is right now. If not worse. He was, Batista was getting booed out of the building. I could not believe it. Everyone was shitting all over Batista, and I'm sitting here going, man, I'm really enjoying this. It's so great to see him back. I was so happy to see him back, and not for 1 second, and you can go back and listen to the show, not for 1 second did I ever say, well, fuck Batista, he sucks. I was always saying, yeah, man, I'm really enjoying it. Great to see him back. And, I was all for it. So, the treatment that he got was just embarrassing, really. It was terrible. And if I'm Batista, I probably wouldn't want to come back. The way the fans treated him, the way the fans, reacted to him. And, I get it, they were all over Daniel Bryan. That was going to be Daniel Bryan's moment. It was. So it was bad timing. If Batista... Let's say Batista comes back last year. He comes back last year. Wow. What a difference it would have been. I think, look, here's the thing. Goldberg, we just saw him come back. Goldberg comes back. He does a total of, 10 minutes of wrestling in his entire comeback. Well, people enjoyed Goldberg for a while, and they started to realize, okay, what the hell is this? By the time WrestleMania came around, they turned on him. But, he still finished okay. He still turned out to be pretty good. And I would say his comeback was a success. Look, but Batista, when he came back, he was doing the whole thing. He was working every week. He was having matches all the time. I think he even did house shows. He was doing everything. So when you say Batista comes back, Batista came back and did the real deal. Goldberg came back and did 10 minutes. Batista came back and he put in the work. He had an injury when he first started out. And look, when you come back after 4 or 5 years away, you're going to be rusty. It's going to take some time to get back in your groove. And eventually he did. And, he should not have been a babyface. When he left the company originally in 2010, he finished off as a heel. And, he should have came back as a heel. They realized that, hey, this heel character is amazing. We should have kept going with that. But they didn't. So everything they did was just terrible. Everything they did was just awful. So, let's forget about that. Let's focus on what's happening right now. Batista wants to come back and do a program with Triple H. He wants to have a rivalry with Triple H because of all the history that they have. He wants to finish his career off with a match with Triple H, probably at WrestleMania, more than like 100% at WrestleMania. And Batista right now just finished, finished up with Guardians of the Galaxy 2. When he left a few years ago, he went to go and, promote Guardians of the Galaxy 1. Triple H, Stephanie, and Vince, they basically said, we don't even think this movie's going to be a success. They kind of laughed at Batista when he said he wants to come back after, doing the promotion of the movie, because he was going to, be hot. Batista's going to have this momentum, just do the movie, people are going to be talking about him. He's Drax, it'd be huge, come back. But they kind of laughed in his face and just mocked him, we don't even think the movie's going to be successful. And just the blatant disrespect that Batista got. So here is Batista a few years later, and he still wants to come back. Now, he said he hates WWE, but it's the only place to go and wrestle in town. He's not going to go wrestle in Ring of Honor, let's be honest. So it's WWE or nothing. He hates, the politics in WWE, but he loves the fans. He loves wrestling. He misses wrestling. So here's a guy who legitimately wants to come back, do what's right, have a good program, have a big rivalry with Triple H, do a big WrestleMania match, and they don't want him. I just cannot fathom it. I just can't believe it. Batista is legitimate. Yes, a couple of years ago, we're not sure. Nobody was really sure about Guardians of the Galaxy. I think a lot of us, a lot of the media was like, well, is this going to be any good? It's a new franchise. It's a bit of a risk. Everyone was on the fence, but it turned out to be so fucking great. It was amazing. I really don't like superhero movies. I don't like sci-fi either. But I absolutely loved Guardians of the Galaxy. And on the weekend, I went and saw, 2 days ago, I went and saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Now, I have to really kind of disconnect from the whole sci-fi thing and, traveling in space, all that crap, because doesn't interest me. I don't like it. Not my thing. But I tell you what, Batista in that movie, every time he was on screen, I was laughing. He was so funny. He had that contagious laugh that he was doing. A few spoilers, I guess. He was kind of like, saying to one of the people that she's beautiful, but then he would say she's beautiful on the inside, and kind of making fun of her, and you just, every time we see him, he's just making a big fun of himself. He had sensitive nipples or whatever. It just, there's so many stupid things that, his character was doing, but it was so funny that it was just a guy like Batista. You just couldn't picture him, doing that. The actual Drax character, it's hard to even picture him being so goofy and so silly, but that's what makes it work. And, he was the star of the movie for mine. He was the standout. Every time he was on the screen, I was enjoying it. A lot of the other times, the other actors are on, the other characters in the movie, whoever the main chick is, the green chick, I forget her name, but I hated her storyline. I hated her scenes. But I loved everything to do with Batista. Maybe because I'm a big Batista fan, but I was laughing at Batista. Chris Pratt did a great job too, but, and, the Rocket Raccoon guy, he was good too. So, but I just really like Batista's role in the movie. So Batista's legitimately really coming into his own as an actor. He's really getting there. And Guardians 2 was great. And Batista was a real big part of the movie. You notice that he had a much, much bigger role in this one compared to the first one. The first one, he only had a handful of lines. This one, he was all over it. So his role is getting big. And he's, growing as an actor and, starting to get his name out there. And for him to not be in the WWE, what he could be, I just can't believe it. In a day and age where WWE has no fucking stars, they keep bringing back Taker, they keep bringing back Triple H, they just brought back Goldberg, who hasn't been relevant for, since 2004. Batista is in one of the biggest movies of the year. How much more relevant could he be? And they don't want to bring it back. I just can't believe it. And whether you hate Batista or you like Batista, I don't care. The thing is, you think about it as a business move, it just makes every sense in the world. Whether you want to see Triple H and Batista or not, I don't care. It makes all the sense in the world to bring the guy back, do the program, do the match. At WrestleMania, dress him up as Drax. God, do that. Paint him up as Drax, come out and beat the shit out of Triple H. It could be a 10-minute match. I would go nuts for it. It'd be awesome. And it would be huge. It would be a Hollywood crossover. And something that WWE thrives on. They thrive on getting mainstream media attention, but they can't do it because, who's going to get, who's a crossover star? Roman Reigns is going to get mainstream media attention? Only for the bad reasons. That the crowd don't give a shit about him. So, yeah, I don't know. There's my rant. We always get at least one rant on the show, but this one really pissed me off. I was listening to this podcast and I was just fuming, and I know he was fuming as well. He's pissed. I'm pissed. Wow. There should be some petition. I don't know. I'm not all about the petitions. There's got to be something, to slap Triple H in the face and tell him to bring this guy back. And here's the thing. Look, if they don't want to have Batista come back and do a match, they bring back guys all the time for WrestleMania. They bring back The Rock to do a thing. Shawn Michaels is always there. Stone Cold when they can. Mick Foley all the time. Why not have Batista come out? Batista come out, hit a Batista bomb on someone at WrestleMania and just do that. Christ, why aren't they doing that? Why is Batista so shunned? I get it. Batista said, some outlandish things about the company. He's, trashed the company a little bit. He doesn't like certain things about it. He's opinionated. He's a very opinionated guy. But Goldberg spent 10 years trashing wrestling in WWE. And they welcomed him back with open arms. So, the double standards is ridiculous. And I thought Batista and Triple H are friends, legitimate friends. So there must be more to it than what we know. It'd be great to know WWE's side of the coin. We know Batista's side. It'd be great to hear from Triple H as to why. So I'd like someone, who can to interview Triple H and ask him the question. Why isn't Batista back in the company when he wants to be here? And pretty soon, I don't think Batista's going to have an opportunity to come back. I think his schedule is going to be so busy and so full that he probably can't come back if he wanted to. So, the clock's ticking. Batista's availability is really fading away. Well, from that big rant, we'll move on to the Fast Five. Let's start rattling off a few more extra topics. I just wanted to round Batista. Look, I'm a big Batista fan. I just really wanted to kind of get that in. And let me know your thoughts. Would you like to see Batista back? If so, are you happy with him versing Triple H, or do you want to see him verse some newer guys? I think he mentioned that he would like to work with Bray Wyatt, but he mainly just wants to work with Triple H. He mainly just wants to do that. But look, if one of the conditions is, hey, come back and lose to a few of our current guys, whatever. He did that fine. He lost to Daniel Bryan. He put the Shield over a few times. He didn't care. So probably, if he's enjoying himself, he probably would. All right, Fast Five. So 5 questions, 5 minutes. Let's get into it. First question, Nakamura. He's wrestling at Backlash for the first time. Is it a mistake to wait for him to have his first match all this time? 6 weeks in between debuting and his actual first match. Is that a mistake? My answer is no. My answer is no, because it makes the pay-per-view feel more special. One of the issues we have these days is the problem with pay-per-views just being another regular show. Just being another thing, whatever. It's just like a SmackDown turned up a little bit, or Raw turned up a little bit. There's nothing really there. Generally just the championships on the line, something different that we don't normally see, But nowadays, look, we have a lot of title matches as it is. I think we maybe have nearly too many title matches. There's random title matches that have no build up to it, maybe 1 week build. We do that quite a lot, which is fine. I mean, it adds excitement. I get why they do it to try and pop a bit of a rating. It's not really working, but it'd be great to see pay-per-views being held in more regard. So Nakamura wrestling at Backlash for the first time, I think makes it more special. I think it makes it more meaningful, and I definitely am all about it. Is Emma's career in jeopardy? We kind of touched on that a little bit before, but look, I really hope not. I think in terms of which women could be released, I think Summer Rae's career is probably in jeopardy. I think Paige's career is in jeopardy, but I'd like to think that Emma's career is not. Even though she's had the injury, surely you don't give up on her now. I mean, yes, there's some more Australian women that they can replace her with. I think Peyton Royce could be a star. Legitimately, I think she's really great. Billie Kay, not too bad. She's all right. But, she could ride probably Peyton's coattails. And I think Emma's still got a place. We haven't really seen the best of her yet. We get close and then she gets injured. So if this is a long-term injury, another year-out injury, maybe it's all over for her, unfortunately. Monday Night Raw continues to have bad ratings, well, so does SmackDown. Who is to blame? Well, is it Finn Balor's fault, The Miz, Dean Ambrose? Is it these guys who are main eventing the show? Is it their fault, or is it just, NBA playoffs, other things more interesting on TV? Who's to blame? I think it's just, the product. I think we're going to get into it soon, but Raw and SmackDown just haven't been good. Ever since the Superstar shakeup, it just hasn't been good. Is it because we've kind of hit the reset button a little bit and we have to kind of build these new characters, these new interactions, these new storylines? Is it that? I'd like to think so, but, with Raw especially, no Lesnar, no world title, it just feels like such a huge piece of the puzzle is missing. And I don't know, we need the world title back. We need the Universal title back. Lesnar as champion, as I said months ago, it was going to be terrible, a horrible idea, and it's turned out to be that way. The championship's not even going to be defended for, 3 months? He's not even on the show, not even appearing. It's just terrible. Has Kurt Angle's general manager run been a fail thus far? It's early days. It still is very much so early days. But I don't think so. Look, Kurt Angle, we haven't seen him really do a lot yet. I'd like to see him do some more backstage interactions and free himself up a little bit. Be a bit more comedic. Be the Kurt Angle of old. I mean, I get it's been a long time since he's probably been in a role like that, trying to, work with the WWE, not having as much creative freedom. But, I'd like to see him just kind of joke around a little bit more. On his first night, I remember him doing something with Enzo and Cass, I believe, and I really enjoyed that and kind of just thought to myself, wow, this is going to be great. We haven't seen enough of that. I think the whole Bray Wyatt thing that he did a couple of weeks ago was a bit, okay. It looks as though Stephanie McMahon is very close to coming back as well, which I think is going to really impact his performance, his chances of success, because she's just a virus. She's a virus and a cancer that continues to spread. Last question. Will the Broken Hardys be successful in WWE? We're still waiting. Is it going to come? When's it coming? Look, I don't think, a change in gimmick is really going to do that much. I think it's going to be good for a while. Oh, wow, Broken Hardys are here. This is great. For a few months, but then you're going to start to see, the lack of creative freedom, the lack of creativity, and, it's just not going to be the same as it was in TNA, which is, hard to believe I'm saying that, but it's just not going to be as good. So it might be fun for a while, but I just don't know. And I think it looks so that, the nostalgia act is kind of wearing off a little bit as well. So the Hardys need something. They've been good, but, they're relying on their old act. They need to kind of freshen it up a little bit and do something. They're working with Cesaro and Sheamus, which is a good start. I'm really enjoying the feud. I'm really enjoying Cesaro and Sheamus. I just want to see some more out of the Hardy Boys. But that's your Fast Five. It's good to bring that back. I want to try and bring that back a little bit more. Just hasn't been, 5 legitimate questions that I've, wanted to answer. So, that I can rattle off quickly. So, we'll try and bring that back in future weeks and do a little bit more of it because, we can get into things a little bit more quicker. Alright, we'll move on to this week's Monday Night Raw, and, as I said a moment ago, Raw and SmackDown haven't been great, and this is, again, another instance of that. And, like I said, the show is missing the world title. Lesnar sitting at home with a belt. It's not helping. It just feels like there's a huge part of the show missing. It's lacking some star power. Dean Ambrose and The Miz, they did the whole GM angle on Raw. I didn't like it. And then main eventing, just wasn't much to it. The Miz has been, great on SmackDown, But one of the things I really liked about his SmackDown run was his interactions with Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon as well. Interactions with those characters. They're such strong characters that they can go back and forth, and people legitimately like Daniel Bryan, and which, by the way, congratulations to him, had the baby. People legitimately like him, and Dean Ambrose, the crowd is a bit indifferent. Some people are still all for him, and if you're like me, not a lot there. Not a lot there. He's really just struggling. It's not good. And I don't know, what can we do to Dean Ambrose? Do we repackage him? Do we try and do something different? He's trying to be funny when he's not. To be honest, I think I'd have him be more serious. I remember when he was acting like he was stone cold Dean Ambrose. He was coming out there against authority, didn't give a shit, doing whatever the hell he wanted to do. That's the Dean Ambrose that I liked. But now we get this Dean Ambrose who's trying to be a comedian, trying to be funny, goofing around, being silly, acting like he's an idiot. It's not good. It's not funny. It's just cringy. Every time he comes out, he kind of ruins the segments. He brings it down. He doesn't bring it up. He brings it down. And when you've got that, that's not a good thing whatsoever. So, in my opinion, I'd have Dean Ambrose go back to being more serious. Get rid of this comedy. It's not working for him. Look, if the comedy was working, I like comedy. I like having a laugh. We all do. But when it's not working, when comedy's bad, it's very bad. And it's bad. So he needs to, I think, go back, just coming out there. And he still has those elements to his character, where, when he comes out, just, gives someone a dirty deeds, just because he can. That's fine. I like to see him play more on that, instead of, trying to cut these goofy promos and trying to, incorporate more comedy. Let's get rid of that, and let's get back to more, let's kick ass, more serious Dean Ambrose. That's what worked. Remember a couple of years ago when he was taking on Seth Rollins for the belt? What was it, 2015? And he was getting huge reactions. He was more over than Seth Rollins. He was one of the most over guys in the company at the time. People loved him. And that's what he was. He was just that more serious, badass type of character. And I was a huge fan. He was one of my favorites. Now I really just don't care for the guy at all, because of this new, shift in character. I thought the crowd on Raw was not great, despite it being a UK show. You think the UK, you're going to get, one of the best crowds of the year. Really wasn't, not a lot there. They tried starting some chants, it just wasn't really getting there. I thought they were better on SmackDown, but, to be fair, not a lot to really cheer about on Raw. What was there to really get excited about? The Reigns and Strowman was the most exciting point of the show, the biggest reaction on the show. And look, you can say what you want to say about Roman Reigns, but at least he gets a reaction. At least he's getting a big reaction, whether it be boos or cheers. There is a strong reaction for him when he comes out. So, you can say what you want to say, but, you got to give the guy credit for that. And that's all they care about. That's all WWE cares about. Look at John Cena. They didn't give a shit if he was getting booed, as long as he's getting reaction. And a lot of guys aren't getting reactions. Look at Dean Ambrose. He wishes he'd get that reaction, whether he's getting booed or cheered. So that's the thing. Reigns, I'm sure, is happy as long as he can hear the noise. And so is WWE. So, it's certainly interesting when you have that come, as the moment. With Braun Strowman's coming out there, beating up Kalisto. Out comes Roman Reigns, and the crowd just erupts. Whether you love him or hate him, that's a bit of a telltale sign that he's getting people talking. So as long as that continues to happen, Reigns is going to keep getting that push to the top. So look, if you really hate Reigns that much, just don't make any noise. If Reigns came out to crickets, then I'm sure they would probably go, oh shit, we need to do something here. So he's not getting that. There's nothing really you need to change. But that's all I really have to say about Raw. It just wasn't that good. It's just 3 hours that we had to get through and sit through, and not a lot there to really talk about. SmackDown, pretty similar. We saw another vignette for Lana, aka Emelina 2.0. They really wanted to do this gimmick, didn't they? They really wanted to do the hot, the hot model-looking woman, dancing around a little bit and just looking hot. They tweaked it a little bit. Now she's kind of like, moving on a chair a little bit. They really want to do this gimmick. And Lana apparently has improved in the ring. She's having more matches than down in NXT. She's, trying to get better, so maybe, she will come in the ring and not embarrass herself. But if anything, I think she'll probably maybe do a bit of the Eva Marie thing where she'll, look to get in the ring but doesn't. And, she'll tease it, and then maybe finally she has a match of the pay-per-view against someone she's built a bit of a rivalry with. I'm guessing she'll come in as a heel. I think that's, it's a heel gimmick, I'm guessing. So, who's really available on SmackDown for her to feud with? That's another thing I'm kind of worried about. They've got their main 3 women tied up already. Who else? I can't really think of anyone on the top of my head who's available on SmackDown who's a babyface to feud with Lana. And the only one I can think of is Nikki Bella, but she's not even there. So, and I doubt she would do that anyway. So I don't know. I don't know who she's going to even feud with. So maybe she has to come in as a babyface. And maybe, versus the women over there. But then again, they're tied up as well. So, hard to say. But maybe she'll just verse some local talent for a while until something frees up. You never know. But, look, Lana getting a bit of a bigger role in wrestling, I'm all for it. I think she was a good, manager or valet, and I would have probably kept that with Rusev, and I don't know if they're going to split that up. I'm guessing they will. Rusev apparently will be coming back to SmackDown next week, which is good. I would like to see Rusev get a push. Look, I'm going to talk about Jinder Mahal in a second, but it's not working. Jinder Mahal just isn't good. We'll talk about it in the moment. But Rusev has proven that he could take that next step up into the main event, and he just hasn't been given that opportunity. I like Rusev more than I like Baron Corbin. I like him a hell of a lot more than Jinder. I really like Rusev. He's obviously really taken a step back over the last couple of years since he lost the US belt and was on that big wave of momentum. He's got a new look now and a bit of a new gimmick, I'm guessing, as well. You never know. It may work. I think, a change, a bit of time away as well can always help. So I personally think Rusev coming back is great, and I would love to see him finally get a chance to be in the main event. He's got a good size about him. He's got a good look. He's believable that he can, win. Maybe he doesn't have to be the world champion. Maybe he does be the world champion. Who knows? But if anyone's going to get that main event push, I would have done it to Rusev. I would have held off in the Jinder Mahal and said, hey, if you want to push Jinder, get him in the mid-card. Put him in the mid-card and beat some lower mid-card guys. Have him have a legitimate rivalry with Mojo if you really wanted to. But yeah, so I hope Rusev can get back to the Rusev of old and get himself in the top. So we'll see. We'll see. It's hard to say if he'll get there, but you never know. And Jinder Mahal. Look, I'd have to say, I'm probably going to get flack for this because for some reason people have this fascination with Jinder Mahal right now. People are always, have gone from not giving an absolute shit about the guy to, let's give him a chance. Let's defend him. Let's pretend that we really like this guy after years of not ever talking about him once. So his promo, and look, Randy Orton was not much better, but Randy and Jinder's promos were terrible. They're boring, it's just such a boring rivalry. And Jinder talking about how he's doing it for India, the character, we went on about this last week, just the character they're going to try and do, they're just forcing this thing, and it just sucks. We've seen it, we've heard it all before. It's nothing new, it's just a new guy doing it. And yes, he's got a good look, but in the ring, he's okay. A promo is not good. Like a few weeks ago, people were talking about how great his promo was. He's one of the best promo guys on SmackDown. Well, can you honestly say that after this week? His promo was terrible. Really not good. And look, people may say, you're just shitting on Jinder. And yeah, I am. Because the guy shouldn't ever be in this position to begin with. They continue to push him. He even beat Randy Orton. He pinned Randy Orton on SmackDown, which is fine. I've been saying he needs to get victories. He needs to get victories. You want to have him build up for Backlash. That's absolutely fine. Let's do that. But, it looks as though they're all for it. They really want to get this guy over. But it's not really working. And he needs a new finisher as well. That finisher that he used on Randy, I just couldn't believe that he was going to pin him. As soon as he hit that finisher, I thought, Randy's going to kick out at 2. That's the type of finish that Randy would kick out at 2 of. But he didn't. Got the win. It just didn't feel like a finisher. He needs some more, He needs a more impact, powerful finisher. He needs more of an impact move. And put over the fact that he's big. Put over the fact that he's got the power and strength behind him. Put over that. And the move that he's doing just doesn't really do it. So he needs a new finisher to begin with. Promos, it's not good. And, to be honest, having a rivalry Randy Orton at the moment who's really struggling. Randy Orton is just terrible. I can't believe he's a champion. It's a very bad mistake, but he is. It's just boring. And Jinder's not helping the cause. So I'm not liking it. And that's my opinion. I like a lot of other things on the show. People may say I'm negative, but I'm not liking the whole Jinder Mahal push. Especially when I think there's better people. I don't even like Baron Corbin, but I think he would have been better for the role. And I know they probably want to say Baron Corbin, but I think they could have just done something. Something to get him through until Rusev was back or something like that. I don't know. But the heel side of SmackDown is really lacking, isn't it? AJ, is he a heel? Is he a babyface? At the moment, he's a babyface. You got Kevin Owens, which is great. Randy, he's a babyface. He's lacking opponents. You got Jinder, you got Baron, you got Rusev, you got Kevin Owens. But, Owens is obviously US champ, so you can rule him out. And Jinder is not there. Rusev needs to be, re-established again, and Baron Corbin's the only guy who's there. But I don't think Corbin, I just don't see him as a main event guy yet. I see him as still an upper mid, who may come in for a main event match, but, I don't see him as the top guy. So they've got a lot of work to do, and to be fair, they took away The Miz, who was on the verge of breaking through. Took away Bray Wyatt, which they gave the belt to. So it doesn't help. It doesn't help. They lose a couple of their top guys, and, as AJ said, SmackDown makes them, Raw takes them. He couldn't be more true. That's spoken, very true words right there. I did think the main event was solid, though. The 6-man tag, was a good match. All their best guys in the one match, I think, was a good call, a good move, and, it worked. It worked well. Like I said, Jinder got the win at the end, so, But the other thing I like on the show, I really like the women's rivalry. The 3-on-3, the Welcome Committee, and the Becky, Charlotte, and Naomi thing. I like that. I think that's going well. I like the segments that Breezango were doing. The backstage. When they were, the cops, and they saw the Ascension, which led to a match. I like that. I thought that was really good, and I liked that it led to a match as well. And the Usos promo, I really didn't like. What was it, 12 days? That, it just didn't work for me. But Breezango, I think this is a tag team that deserves an opportunity, a long-term chance. Tyler Breeze is talented. Fandango's pretty decent. Fandango still has a little bit there, especially in the UK. It gets a bit of a reaction because of the whole Fandangoing thing that happened a few years ago. People still kind of remember that, and, he, at one point he was over, it was a flash in the pan, but at one point he's had success, and, he's proven that he can get there. Tyler Breeze never really had an opportunity, so it's good to see the two going now, and, look, I like the gimmick, the Fashion Police. I think they could do a lot more with it, and I think they should be doing a lot more of it. I think, the skits backstage, I think, are working well. I'd like to see more of that, continue that. And I hope that even if they lose against the Usos at Backlash, I hope they continue the push and it's not just a short-term thing to fill in space while we wait for the New Day to come back. I hope that's not the case. I hope they keep trying to get this team over because SmackDown needs it. It has no tag teams. The division is awful. So let's try and build on that. Let's try and do something with that. And I think that could work. We need sometimes goofy characters and gimmicks work. And we've got a lot of people who are just guys, what's their characters? Like Stone Cold said on his podcast, what's Seth Rollins' character? What's that? And, even like Finn Balor, he's come back and there's not a lot there to him either. I mean, kind of, when the demon comes back, it might, ramp up a little bit, but right at the moment, he's just another guy. He's just, it's not there. So if you've got someone like, Breezango, you know what they are. They're the Fashion Police. You know their gimmick, their characters, and, they play that role. And I think that's sometimes good to know what their character is and who's this guy and have something that distinguishes you from the rest. So whilst you might think it's silly or goofy, I think that's good. I think, especially at a time right now we don't have enough silly or goofy, and they can work that, and they can, hopefully get that over. So that's SmackDown. Last little news tidbit. JR working the UK shows, perhaps even the women's tournament, the 32 women's tournament to crown the best woman of the world or whatever the hell. Similar to the Cruiserweight Classic, the Women's Classic, whatever that's going to be. JR's going to be working the UK shows and then perhaps that tournament as well. So that's good news. JR and Nigel McGuinness doing the UK shows I think will be successful. And perhaps JR and Corey Graves doing the Women's Tournament. So that's also going to be good as well. So that's good. That's good. Maybe you could have a woman do colour commentary for the Women's Tournament. I think that would have been, look, I'm not... I'm not being sexist, but I'm just not a big fan of women commentary. I mean, I guess I'm so accustomed to male commentary that it's hard to kind of adjust to a woman commentating. And I'm slowly doing it. We're slowly starting to see more women commentating in the sporting world, which is a good thing. So I'm slowly getting more accustomed to it. But so I guess when I watch WWE, I'm so used to, male commentary that hearing a woman, commentate may be really different and really hard to kind of adjust to. But I think it's, if you're going to do it, a women's tournament would be the one to do it in. So whilst, yes, Corey Graves and JR would be a dream team, I wouldn't mind hearing some women commentary as well. Now, who would do it? I have no idea. But, yeah, it would have been fine. A good opportunity anyways. But anyways, JR doing the UK shows is a good thing. Looks as though they're going to get that show up soon. I believe they did some tapings for it. Personally, am I going to watch it? I may check out the first episode if I like it, and I might keep watching it. But I think more than likely I'm not going to. Look, I just don't have a connection with any of the UK guys, and UK wrestling. I don't know if it's my thing. I don't know. It's going to be WWE basically, but can these guys that don't really look that much different? They're all kind of average-looking people. 6 foot, 200-pound guys, just kind of doing the same kind of things. If they have a few guys that set themselves apart, or I'm interested in, maybe I'll keep going with it. But I don't know if I will. I don't know if that's going to be the case. So that's the challenge. Tyler Bate, he's okay. I think Pete Dunne's pretty good. But, Trent Seven was okay. So there's not a lot there that I'm really kind of intrigued or interested in. So just taking a look at the UK tournament, which I watched most of it. So, yeah, we'll have to see. All right, moving on. We've got one little gaming thing before we get into the questions this week. Like, once again, I forgot the Facebook questions, so I do apologize for that. But NBA Playgrounds. I got my hands on the game this week. I've been playing it all day today, actually. Quick little review. Look, if you like the arcade NBA basketball style, this is a game for you. I mean, it's probably not a lot of content there. I think I've played through half the game already. But it's got the very similar to like FIFA packs, where you open packs to get new players on your team. I think at the moment I have a legendary Shaq and a legendary Russell Westbrook. I've been mainly playing as Carmelo, but now that I have a legendary Westbrook, I've switched over. So I'm really happy to get Shaq. The one guy I wanted to get on my team was Shaq, and I got him like very, very early on, so I was very, very happy about that. So I've been enjoying it. It's fun, it's goofy, it's over the top, it's crazy, but it's just fun. It's a game you can just jump on. The games only last a few minutes each, and so it's quick. It's just good, and apparently there's going to be a lot more content added to it as well. The only thing I would say is it's a little bit pricey. I think it was $30 for me to buy here in Australia. Probably more of a game you want to pay $20 for, so... But, if you want to wait for it to go on sale, sure, why not? I think it's a game, especially if you like NBA, this is a game for you. It's fun. So I personally really enjoy it. They've done a great job, and there's a lot of NBA players in it. I think there's at least 5 or 6, 7 on each franchise. And yeah, and there's online play. I haven't tried online play. I probably won't. Online doesn't really interest me. Plus, I'm pretty terrible, so I'd probably get smashed. So yeah, but my quick little review, I'd probably give it about a 7.5 out of 10, with a potential to increase if they had a little bit more modes to play as. They only have exhibition and a bit of a tournament mode, which is just basically exhibition matches with one challenge stamped on it. So if they added maybe like an ultimate team type of deal, I don't know, what could they really do, I don't know. So if they kind of add another mode, maybe a season or a manager mode or something like that, they kind of slap something like that just to kind of have a mode that will give you some longevity and something to play for and complete, then I would definitely be a lot more interested and probably bump it up a little bit more. But right now, probably not enough content. Now that I think about it, it's probably more of a 7 because it lacks the content. The core value of the game is good, just lacks a game mode to really kind of keep you going long term. But that's NBA Playgrounds. Now it's time for some questions before we wrap up the show. Alrighty, so the first question is coming from Kashmala FaZe. Do you think Triple H is a creative genius? Wow. That's hard to say because we don't really know what Triple H does in terms of WWE. It's a bit of a mixture between Vince and Triple H, I'm sure, plus a lot of other guys. In terms of NXT, Triple H has done a lot of good things. So is he a creative genius? I don't know if I would use the word genius, but has he done a lot of good things? Absolutely. And is he good for WWE? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I think so. So I think him running the show would be good, and I don't see him ever really running WWE in the ground. I think anything, I see him turning it around and making it better. So is he a creative genius? I don't know if I would use the word genius, but I definitely think he has a great creative mind. This one's from Jojo Morano. If you brought the Hardys to your universe mode, would you incorporate the broken gimmick? Well, look, it's hard to do that because, look, if I did the broken gimmick, it's not going to do it justice, is it? It's never going to be, all the silliness and craziness that it was in TNA in real life. We're not going to be able to go to the Hardy compound and do all that things. So if I went with that, it would be so hard to do that. Will I have them come out, perhaps, if they do go with the broken gimmick in WWE, would I have them come out dressed like that and kind of just, yes, they're the broken Hardys, you just got to kind of use your own imagination and kind of do... Yeah, probably. Look, it's hard to kind of do that gimmick, but it's like Bray Wyatt. It's hard to kind of do, I would never do a Bray Wyatt promo on my show because I just wouldn't do it justice. So, if you can imagine that it's there, fine. But if you can't, maybe I would have to just do what the current gimmick is now without being broken. You never know. So, I guess I will gauge the reaction of the fans and how they like, what I'm doing. And if it's not up to their standards, then maybe I'll change it or switch things up. If you could change one thing about WWE right now, what would it be? Well, I'll have a few things, as we mentioned in the show. For example, Brock Lesnar, competing the world title on the show would be nice. Look, it's the standard things. Raw going back to 2 hours. I think that's just an absolute must at this point. But I just think I'd like to see a bit more of a focus and an emphasis on the tag division. I think, look, it's there, but I just feel like they're lacking so much star power. I think a few guys that aren't doing a hell of a lot. Yes, they're makeshift teams, but I wouldn't mind seeing that happen. Just a few top guys, entering the tag division. For example, Randy Orton should have been in the tag division right now instead of for the world title, something like that. Maybe if John Cena comes back, forms a tag team, do something like that. Kind of use these names. It don't have to be the world title picture all the time, but, kind of lift the tag division because it's just so lackluster right now. Favorite pay-per-view since the draft, the brand exclusive pay-per-views? To be honest, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. I know Raw hasn't really had a good one. It'd be one of the SmackDown ones. I think Elimination Chamber was a good match. It was okay. For some reason, No Mercy is popping straight in my head, so it might be one of those. I can't... Here's the thing. I really struggle with remembering pay-per-views. I really struggle going back and going, oh yeah, this match happened on this pay-per-view. Or I really like that match. I really struggle with that. So if a pay-per-view didn't happen a month ago, I probably can't remember it. That's why I don't do end-of-year reviews, because I can't remember what happened throughout the year. I just can't. it just escapes my mind very quickly. So I have a bit of a bad memory of that. And same with like sporting games. Like, you hear a commentator that bring up a match that happened last year, and they'll mention a moment that happened in that match last year. Could not tell you what happened, and I probably watched it. I just don't remember it. So it's hard to kind of do those questions for mine. If you could change one thing about your universe mode, what would it be? And this, by the way, is the same question from Xavier King. It wouldn't be so. I guess changing my universe mode myself personally. I don't know, man. Like, I really, if there's something I want to change, I probably would have changed it by now. I don't know. Like, I'd like to maybe do some more promos and things like that in my US mode and have a bit more storylines. But I wish that we had more storylines. Like, I would love to do like backstage interviews and things like that. Just kind of quick little interviews, just to kind of have a bit of a pre-match promo, rather than you have to go in the ring to kind of do it. I don't really, I like doing that sometimes, but not before a match. It doesn't really make sense, especially if the guy is in the ring, already. Like, if his opponent's in the ring, it doesn't make sense. It's kind of hard to create. So there's a lot of things that I want to change, but I just can't do it because of the limitations of the game. Alright, we'll move along now to the final question of today's show. It's from Ryan Fleming. This one kind of relates to my video that I did yesterday. Do you think 2K will actually add all the NXT guys and girls to WWE 2K18? I'd like to see it. I really would. But do I think I'll see it? Or we'll see it? I don't think so. I think they'll probably have a bit of a bigger roster. I think they'll select a lot of the guys that are on NXT regularly. But, some people that aren't, like perhaps like a Tino Sabatelli, those types of guys. Maybe even like a Liv Morgan, who I don't think is on the show all that much. Some people who are on and off, there and there, but, aren't on every single week, may not make the cut. Whereas obviously, like, Sanity will make it. Billy Kay, Peyton Royce would probably make it. Ember Moon would make it. Bobby Roode, obviously. But, some of those people that, they're there and they do a lot of the NXT tours. Like, you see a lot of guys that aren't really on TV that much, like Patrick Clark, for example. He's making all the rounds, doing all the house shows, but he's not really on TV on NXT all that often, as far as I know. I don't really watch it that much, but yeah. So I'd like to see those types of guys in the game. And I get it. People that have never appeared on NXT before, yeah, we could probably do without them. But if they're doing like house shows and they're there, why not? I think more the merrier. I'm sick of having to download everyone and having no space in my downloadables because I'm stuck having to download 25, 30 NXT wrestlers that half of them should already be in the game as it is. It's frustrating. Or at least DLC. And that's the thing, their DLC system is just so whack. They need to stop pre-planning their DLC 6 months in advance and just be on the fly. Look, oh shit, this guy just debuted, let's get him in the game. They need to do that. They need to be more flexible. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is all we have time for this week's edition of the podcast. If you did enjoy it, make sure you do leave a like on it. Subscribe to see the next episode coming away next Thursday. And, of course, King of the Ring coming away this weekend, Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. UK time. Thank you very much for listening in. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you all next Thursday. Make sure you send in a question for next week's show as well. And, so I'll try and answer it next week. So you can do that via a YouTube comment on the Facebook page, hopefully. I do remember I've been pretty good. I've been remembering most weeks, but I had just an absolute mind blank, just completely forgot. I kind of really zoned out of SmackDown this week, so normally once SmackDown finishes, then I post the questions up. But this didn't happen. But anyways, leave a question next week, and I'll try and get to it. Thank you very much for listening in, and I'll see you all next Thursday for another edition of the Let's Talk Thursdays podcast.